Welcome to the Geek Therapy Radio podcast. I am your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger, and in this podcast, I just wanted to muse a little bit. And the end goal of this podcast is kind of just to, make you think about the world a little bit differently. I know what I'm about to talk about is something that a lot of you may already know about, may already be familiar with, but it's something that I was reminded of. It's something that I hadn't thought about in a long time, and it's a very cool technology. It's a very basic technology that I know I want to experiment with here in the near future and tinker with and dabble with and just have a lot of fun with, because that's what it means to be a geek. You think of these things, these little sparks enter your mind, and if it's something that you can feasibly do, especially if it's a really simple experiment like what I'm about to get into, simple technology, it's really fun because it's all the more accessible. The more accessible a geek thing is, the funner it can be, and the more reach it can get, and the more headway you can make with it, the more fun you can have with it. That's not necessarily true, because there are some people that have a lot of fun programming. They are proficient computer programmers, but that takes years of of learning and study, of course, and practice. So I really like this simple kind of experiments, like lighting a light bulb, an LED light bulb, with a lemon. Put a penny and a nickel on both sides of the lemon and attach some electrodes to it and power a wristwatch or a little LED light. Those kind of experiments are always super fun. My niece sent me through her mom's Marco Polo account. I got her one of those plasma balls was it for Christmas or her birthday? I got her one of those plasma balls, from the 70s or maybe even earlier, where you touch your finger to the globe and the little plasma bolt attaches to your finger or whatever. They're very fun to experiment with. And she sent me a Marco Polo of her putting a fluorescent light bulb up against the bulb, or against the globe of the plasma ball. The light bulb was not screwed into anything. It was just in her hand. But when she put the bulb next to the plasma globe, the fluorescent light bulb began to glow. And my heart was overjoyed for her discovering that. She is 6 or 7 years old, 8 years old. So her brain is just starting to make these scientific connections. And I bet you when she first tried that, it blew her mind how that could work. And so I was so happy in living vicariously through her that her mind was blown by that. So is that kind of simple experiment that brings joy, especially to a child and even in our own lives. So what I'm getting at is what I want to experiment with. They're called Rectennas. Rectenna. Rectenna. It's basically a rectifying antenna. And long story short, it is how you pull usable electricity out of the air, just out of the thin air. Nikola Tesla said that he was experimenting on powering the whole world through this technology, which is basically just beaming electricity through the air, through radio waves, to a receiver that would receive the radio waves and then convert it to usable electricity on the other end. So this is not a new technology, and it's been around. The concept has been established for decades, if not 100 years at least. Marconi and radio waves and all that. So at its most basic, it's basically an antenna, a dipole antenna with a rectifier in the circuit. I mean, it's not a very big circuit. It's just a rectified antenna, ergo called a rectenna, that you have a positive and negative lead coming out of, and that gets you your voltage. So if you had a rectenna, even a basic rectenna made out of tin foil and a rectifying circuit, and you went to a radio transmission site or near a cell phone tower and held it, you would get some usable voltage. If you hooked up a voltmeter, you would see the voltage increases the closer you get to the broadcast antenna. And that's just something that I thought would be fun to experiment with, because I've been on a solar energy kick, a renewable energy kick for years. We just got a house recently, so now I just get to let my imagination run wild, or as much as my wife will let me, which is a lot, to hooking up solar panels and having my fun with all these experiments, as long as it doesn't burn the house down or look too gaudy. but I'm free now to experiment with these things. And I want to build a rectifying antenna and see. And if I do this, of course, I'm going to put it up on YouTube, just my little discoverings and my little tinkerings with this. But I'm going to see how much power I can pull out of the air. My goal, and this is before I'm even attempting anything. So I know that this is just absolutely, this is a high bar to set, and it might be impossible. And I am naive right now. As of recording, I am naive in my thinking. But my naive goal is to be able to charge my phone, to get a barely usable amount of energy out of the end to charge a phone. So my goal is to get 500 milliamps and 5 volts out of the other end of a Rectenna. That's my goal. Will I reach that goal? See, I don't know. And I can only assume through past failings and experimentation in other areas of science that there is a big difference between your expected outcome and reality. So I don't doubt that in my backyard I could pull 5 volts at half an amp through a Rectenna. It's just a question of how big the Rectenna is. So if the Rectenna I build, and I'm already thinking 2 big, giant, huge, like frames of chicken wire. Oh, man. Awesome. So anyways, but how big? So how big would it basically need to be like 2 ping pong ball tables suspended in the air to get 500 milliamps at 5 volts, enough to just barely, at this day and age, trickle charge a smartphone? Who knows? But that's what the experiment is. And no, I'm not going to build it as big as 2 ping pong tables and hang them up in the backyard or lean them up against the fence or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe I will. Now my mind's going. And hopefully your mind is going too. And maybe your mind is going, Johnny, you're an idiot. There are so many things wrong with what you're saying. Here's why it won't work. Here's what you need to do to make it work. That's fine. That's what Geek Therapy Radio is all about. I want you to share that with me. Geektherapy at iHeartMedia.com. Geektherapy at iHeartMedia.com. Share with me a better start for this experiment. And I will share what you share with me. I will share this knowledge with others, because that's what it's all about here. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If I haven't said that enough in my radio show and my podcast, correct me if I'm wrong. It is better to spread true information than naive information. So I always have the caveat that no matter what I'm talking about, you know what? Don't take it precisely from me every time. If there's a tinge of doubt in what I'm saying, by all means, look it up for yourself. By all means, look it up for yourself and then let me know the real answer to this. For instance, my hypothesis that I can get 5 volts at half an amp out of a Rectenna that I build in my garage without it being as big as 2 ping pong tables. Does that hold any truth? I have no idea, because I haven't tried it yet, and I'm not. This is not my area of expertise. I'm just excited to try. And I think that's what it all boils down to. That's the quintessential takeaway from all of this and in pursuing any of this, is being excited at the sheer curiosity of it all and being excited to try. Because you know what's going to happen as I try this experiment to get 5 volts at half an amp to charge a cell phone with a Rectenna? You know what's going to happen in this endeavor? I'm going to fail a lot of the times along the way, but I'm going to learn so much in those failures. That's where we learn the most, is in those failures. Why didn't this work? Why didn't this work the way I think it was supposed to work? There's a whole lot of revelation there in the experimentation. There's a whole lot of joy there. It's not like, oh, this doesn't work, I'm so pissed off. It's, wow, I learned something in doing this. So I'm excited for the curiosity that I have in this, and maybe it'll spark a curiosity in you. Don't electrocute yourselves, even though I don't think you're going to produce enough current to electrocute yourself or even get a tingle. But I hope it sparked in you an idea you might want to try. A Rectenna to charge a cell phone. That's the goal. Will I reach it? I guess you'll have to stay tuned to find out. That's all I wanted to say. I'm geeking out about building a Rectenna to potentially charge a cell phone. Ooh. Okay, I got it. Okay, that's it for this podcast. Thank you for listening. Remember, we're all geeks about something, so embrace your inner geek. Be good to yourselves and others, please. Please know that you're worthy of love, of giving love and receiving love. And I'll talk to you in the next Geek Therapy Radio podcast. Take care, everybody.